This is the oldest view in the known universe. Well, it's a picture of it, anyway, preserved at the edge of time, brought to our eyes by photons traveling since the dawn of space itself. To look out is to look back. To the sun, 8 minutes. To the moon, a second. Even your hand can only be seen in the past. It's never now. It's always then. All we ever see are images of the past. These dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus rex and the Stegosaurus, never met. When the T-Rex walked the earth, every single Stegosaurus had been dead for nearly 90 million years. This is footage from the 1993 movie Jurassic Park, which came out roughly 66 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs. In other words, the T-Rex lived closer to the creation of Jurassic Park than it did to the Stegosaurus. This scene is more historically accurate. This movie is wrong, by the way. The T-Rex likely didn't look like this. Of course, nobody's going to go back and change the movie. The representation of the T-Rex in this movie will just have to remain false, forever frozen on celluloid, like the early universe at the edge of space. The movie is therefore not a representation of what the dinosaurs were, but about who we were and what we thought in 1993. The picture is, perhaps inescapably, a portrait of the artist as much as the subject. The point is our compression of time. The depth of the local gives way to the flatness of scale. The pyramids were as ancient to Cleopatra as Cleopatra was to Elizabeth Taylor, here seen in the movie Cleopatra from 1963. In comparison, and on the topic of time, Albert Einstein had completed his theory of general relativity in 1915, showing the elasticity and relativity of time. He was 36 years old. So am I. We've had the same amount of time. The Belgian surrealist René Magritte painted The Treachery of Images in 1929. This is not The Treachery of Images. This is just a tribute. Dziga Vertov's Man with the Movie Camera also came out in 1929. For context, Flaherty's Nanook of the North was released in 1922. Only 3 years later, the Soviet filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein had released his famed Battleship Potemkin. And in France, the surrealist filmmakers were reaching their peak. Then, in 1927, the first full-length sound film was released, The Jazz Singer, further blurring the line between representation and reality. This is not a black man, by the way. That's the white actor Al Jolson in blackface. And only after all of this did Magritte finally paint his famous picture. This is not The Treachery of Images either, by the way. This is just an image of it. The medium of film is powerful. That much was clear since the first film met its first audience. The cinematograph did whatever Frankenstein once sought to do. It had created life from that which had none. Through chemistry, with the arrival of photons trapped in a strip of film, was life itself. An illusion, really, but enough of one to pass for the real thing. You cannot eat the picture of a chicken, but it can arouse your appetite. And, as the Kuleshov effect demonstrates, the film exists partially only within the observer. You fill in the blanks, and you fill them with yourself. This is one of my favorite images, the pale blue dot. It was taken on February 14, 1990, roughly 6 billion kilometers from the Earth. I'm 3 years old in this picture. You can't see much of anything on this scale. You'd be forgiven for not seeing my house. And yet everyone who ever lived, whoever died, whoever fought and won and struggled and suffered did so on that dot, on that lonely piece of dust. I like to remember this whenever I feel something is a big problem or too important to cancel. Nothing on this planet is all that big or all that important. At least not when you're 6 billion kilometers away. The photographer's positionality must not be forgotten. In this case, it was Voyager 1, now far away in the void, between stars. It is a good picture, not because of what it shows, a few specks of dust on a black background, but for what it represents about our position in the universe. Small, insignificant, inconsequential. I mean, to a physicist that's perfectly fine. But let me ask you, is that how you feel? When you love and cry, when a child looks to you with wonder, or when you climb a mountain because somebody told you it would be fun, or when your lover snuggles up real close. It doesn't feel small to me. It doesn't feel inconsequential. When this picture was taken on Valentine's Day of 1990, I guarantee you all those things were happening to someone. This picture is important, not just because of what it shows, but also for what it doesn't. This might be a picture of our planet, but it's not a picture of our home. I still can't see my house in this. I have seen the faces of both great and terrible people, heard their voices of inspiration and insanity. Long dead, they endure, on celluloid, as ones and zeros. As men and women they came and went, but as IDs and images they endure. Frozen moments out of time, and while the images do not change, the world that surrounds them inevitably will. The jazz singer was the first talkie, yet show it today and what most stands out is not the technological marvel of sound, but the practice of blackface. Once only the privileged could write, and once only the privileged could film. When I was 10 years old I wanted to make a movie for school, but we didn't have a camera. I still liked writing though, stories and movies that nobody ever saw. A camera was a valuable thing in those days. Of course, now I have my own camera on my computer and another on my phone. I'm drowning in cameras and images, and so is the world. We are the most documented generations in history. The digital archaeologists of the future might come to know you better than your friends ever did. At least little bits of you. Frozen moments of time preserved forevermore, smiling to the unknowable from the distant past. The dead, but never departed. The immortality of the great and terrible, at last democratized for the masses. Your image may well live forever in the digital machine, the property of someone in the service of something. No wonder everyone wants to take their own pictures, preserve their own stories. For who are you to decide which bits of me should get to endure? Who are you to say what mattered to me? Perhaps two people never see the same movie. How could they? As a child, I saw a film about a father and a son. The father was a minor crook, and at the end of the movie he was shot. And it was sad. It was worse for me. because the dad in the movie looked so much like my dad. The projection was my own. You would not see what I saw, even if you'd seen the same film with me. You might say you saw something with your own eyes, but therein is the problem. They were your eyes, bound to your brain, your views. And the movie, your movie, need not be mine. And what was seen is perhaps inescapably an image of yourself as much as the artist. We would be wise to heed the warning, to beware the treachery of images.